world's going cold. You came along and sang me a song, brought me along for a ride. In such a shift, it gives me a lift. We started our ride.
You want me to do a clip now?
Days into weeks, became months into years. Waves wore me down to the bone. You came into view and you opened up the sky.
Yeah, I gotta watch.
Chase the clouds away with your voice.
Should I just
Breeze up the sail.
zoom in and out also? I'll zoom because I got a wide. Just getting audience. The Brian one is like audience.
Okay, what time?
I just experiment because then I can fade back and forth between zooms.
When are you going to start filming?
Well, I'm live streaming now.
Yeah. We're playing till 8. So maybe I'll start at like 7.
37, 40. You only really need like 10. You didn't need to go overboard. Like, I'm mostly gonna edit for Brian just the speaker, and I'll do a little B-roll of this as like an intro, like that shot with like Whitefish review and Explore Whitefish presents blah 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 blah. And then I'll use my iPhone. Actually, use my iPhone.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
And it works great, and everyone's happy.
Okay.
Like, so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's quite fun. Your thing.
I meant to ask you, what's your color balance? What's it at?
I think I'm on auto right now. Let's see.
Yeah,
and it's a little warm up there.
Get on your feet.
That is
Find
And I have it.
you're meant to be. The time has come.
Yeah, I can balance it. So just do whatever you're comfortable.
You got each other.
It's gonna look good.
Long journey home, it's a long journey home. Don't know where we go. Long journey home. Long journey home. Don't know where we've been. Long journey home. Don't know where we've been. Long journey home. Long journey home. Don't know where we've been. Welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? Great. Oh, good. Nice to see that. Good. Thanks all for coming tonight to the Whitefish Review event. My name is Deidre Corson. I'm here with Ryan Wickland. We're going to give you some music for a little bit, and then we'll get that show on. This first set is all original tunes that I composed in the last 4 or 5 months. Thank you.
I grab my shotgun like I grab my shotgun.
Okay. Well,
Audio's good on here though.
I'm recording on my system too.
It's more for the stream. So yeah, that way you have scratch audio.
She's just a girl who wants to see. She's just a boy who wants to I'm going to start this over. And then, what's the terrible sound? We'll have to excuse us. She's just a girl who wants to see. It's just a boy who needs to Can you be the light in my darkest hour? So I can go anywhere. I'm your face, not that Yes, I feel the darkness. Yes, I Since you're things to rise, talk as it says, you know, she's just a girl who wants to see. It's just a boy who wants to be. Can you be the light in my darkest hour? So I can go right in your head. So I'll You've been tossed aside and cast away, left alone as living bread. One week life is lost and you're here to your living room, even in the darkest room. Light can have broken face. She's just a girl who wants to see. It's just a boy who needs to know. Can you be the light in my darkest hour? So I don't go I'll be your friend. So I'll be at your spent many years working at a Catholic boarding school. How many of those people are here today? I think there's a few folks who graduated that day. And several of those students were adopted orphans and felt like they were locked up in cage shops. So that was through our friends from Montana who sometimes are still our friends today. This next song I actually wrote a little while back. My friend Brett Holmquist helped me with this video. This was a Big Sky Family band. Don, can we get a little more mono? Please. Someday we'll get that Big Sky Family band. Much better, much better for me. We in the water, what's been right out to the water. Ebbing and flowing, when I'm burning to oh, let the waves come crashing down. Don't let them get to what is the reason we resting on the or can we just let who hides the answers what we share last year, we lost a pretty good friend. It's kind of amazing how many good friends we lost in the last and it makes me realize that life is short. For some of us, it's shorter than for others. So, essentially, the message is learning is make sure you tell your friends and the people that you love. It's important. It's constantly learning.
Do you know if the mic picture is
It's not my, I'm just watching. Yeah, I think the sound is being run by the back. Whatever you were just saying, we can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah, where is it?
I
A
think there's
guy
a
back
sound
there?
guy in the very back corner.
It's been some time. It's been a long time. And if I don't tell you,
That's what happens, I think, when you grow up, like learning how to navigate a mountain. I hope.
It's just slipping away. It's just falling away. You can't catch it. You can't catch the wind. You can't hold the smiles. They all fade away. They only last a while. 'Cause they're just slipping. They're just fading.
We got 5.
Never even checked to see if you had gone live.
Yeah, we're live. We got 5 people on right now. Yeah.
You can't catch the wind. You can't hold the smiles. They all fade away. They all fade away. Tell your friends you love them. I love your friends. So, beginning of my
Yeah. I saw it when he was in Rent. I was like,
all these songs started falling out of me in
realized
about
now that
August.
I'm gonna have to get some more conservative or something.
And literally, they were just falling out of me. And I mean, sometimes it takes me years to write a song. the orphan song started years ago when I was working at Montana Academy, but the finish to it just came in this window between August and September. And I literally wrote 12 songs. But I was lucky enough to have a friend to write these songs with. I was back in Maine, which is where I grew up. Yes. And one of my classmates' husbands is also a songwriter. And every 5 years I go back for my reunions, and this year was our 30th. And I actually got to stay right next door at one of my girlfriend's houses to Erin and Andrea. And so it was great because Erin and I, we didn't just like go to the party and have a few beers and play a few songs. You play one, I'll play one, that'd be great. We actually got to sit down and play songs with each other on a porch setting. And it's like, you should learn some of my songs. You should learn some of my songs. We should write some songs. And so we called it Dear in Music, and several of these songs are actually Dear in songs. And this one in particular is a Dear in song. And it came about because musicians have a funny bond. Any of you out there married to musicians? I know my husband is out there. And I was in a band for 10 years with this guy and a few other brothers, and it just becomes a part of your world in such a familial way. They really become a part of your life. That's something you can't touch. They are brothers and sisters, and when you connect with other musicians, it's so special. And if you don't understand that, it's really easy to get jealous. It's really easy to feel like you're missing out if you're not within that circle. I'm super grateful to my husband. He not only understands that and accepts it, he helps me with it. He's a great lyricist and songwriter himself. So he helped fix up some of these songs, but he was really great about it. And we had some moments. Erin, not so good about communicating probably with his wife, but it was a lot harder for her. And so this song came out of wishing for her to understand and know that in the end, the output that you're giving to others in songwriting and making music together is a gift. And we just really want to give you all that gift. So this is called Don't Deny Me. If I was a painter, you would hand me a brush, an easel and canvas, and a space that you trust. You would not deny me a palette of color to paint you a rainbow. More beauty than eyes. If I was a builder, you would hand me some nails, a good solid hammer, and never fail. I build you a mansion where our dreams will come true. I could build anything if the plans are clear. So please don't deny me some favorite plan. You set my 6th street and a place to begin. Please don't I'm yours. I was you give me hope. We be together till death do us part. Our lives will be proven. Music and joy. All the love song. All the girl and the boy. So please don't deny me some paper pen. You set my sins and a place to begin. I'll write you a love song and a ballad or two. Please don't deny my music. So please don't deny me some paper or pen. You set my sixth string and a place to begin. I'll write you a love song or 102. Please don't lie. I'm music. Please don't deny. I'm music. Thanks, guys. This is another De'Aaron song, and it's called The Two Between Us, and it started out because we were like, oh, you know, he's in Maine, I'm in Montana, and we're 2 hours apart, and too much distance, and blah, 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 and it kind of turned into a song about love, and sometimes we just have to give up a little bit together. The two between us, what can we do? There for a while, it's everywhere. Too much history, too much pain.
You're not getting a flicker.
No, it'll like come up a little bit.
Yeah, when it's the big picture,
Yeah.
like the bird.
And it's okay, like that, I think we can deal with. It's not that bad.
It's beautiful.
But in the end, the two
This is my therapist's wife.
It's your therapist.
10 course.
too
Oh,
tired, too sad,
course.
too
Right
angry,
there.
too mad, too cold, too quiet, and too loud, and too
Like-
proud. Too many times I lost
He
you.
is like,
Too tired.
I love him. I love him. He's through Logan Health. He's a psychologist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
I'm too busy, too on your own. Want to reach out, hear your voice on the phone. Two distant lovers Standing here side by side, lost in the silence of our own seconds right. Thought that we could put it together somehow, but in the end the two between us just moved. Too much time has passed by, too many words have been shared. Move on, what you find, and you're too far to play. Too many times we lost one, too many times. Losing without two. Too much for sure. Currents too strong. Too deep in these waters. Tired of the walk. Too much invested. Too much to lose. Too much happiness. Make one last choice. We each have a different point of view. And the two between us alone is the lead. We each have a different point of view. And the two between us alone is the lead. It's a really exciting event. I got asked to play earlier, and I couldn't do it, and it just so happened that I got to walk in on Susan and Jeff Bridges. That was quite an interesting evening. So you invited me back, right? I did get to play the song, and Susan was like, "Who's that girl? She's really cool." So we're gonna play Susan a song later today, even if she's not here. Hopefully she's live streaming. I got to see a woman play with amazing bass music. Her name is Liz Longley, and she was this fabulous, multifaceted writer. She wrote country music, she wrote rock music, she wrote everything, and she even wrote a jazz song. She's like, I only have one, but I got one. That's good. So her t-shirt has, all the Americana, jazz, bluegrass, country. So she inspired me to go ahead and why not play a jazz song? I mean, what's stopping you? So I'm not a jazz guitarist, but this is called Daybreaks and Shadow Sleeps. I'll probably mess it up, so. Daybreaks and shadows, doom of the nights. I had so much fun writing that one that I had to go ahead and write another one. So this is called Nightlights for Lovers. And my next album cover, I think, so my husband Tim was like, that should be your next album, Nightlights for Lovers. That's it. We already decided the cover. It's beautiful. He was not an artist, but he's the creative designer for it. So, Nightlights for Lovers, get out there. You're keeping you warm and you're keeping you safe. I would love everybody. There's this really special gal in my life. Quite lots of special gals in my life. Here. I'm lucky enough, but one in particular is 12 years old, and she is an angel in heaven. Both my kids are, but upon my getting all the lyrics out, this one came first. So I'm really glad that you hear from the third first song. My daughter is right in the middle. This one's for you, girl. You know, it's a sunshine, just a nice. Make my head spin, you got so much sass. Well, you got my feeling. Sweet little lady, girl from the sea, sand and debris. Oh, beautiful thing, priceless to be So we have one more for you, and how many ski bumps are in this room tonight? That's it? Only a couple? No more ski bumps? Really excited to hear Heather tonight. Really excited to get my hands on her book. I moved here in 1996 as a college dropout. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a mathematics and computer science double major, and then I went into psychology, child psychology, and then I went into early education. And nothing was fitting, so I ditched everything and I moved to Montana. I lied to my parents and said I was going to school in Missoula. And really I was skiing at Snowball and Marching Mountain when that was open, learning how to be a true ski bum. And that brought me to Whitefish in 1996, which was one of the biggest snow years ever. And I had so much fun with my girlfriends and my boyfriends and all my buddies that I haven't left in almost 30 years. And Ryan Friel and I just rapping and raving with about, we're all coming up on 3 decades. We have it. Some of my friends, how many girls have been here? Now it's been here 3 decades. Gretchen's been here 3 decades. And some of you are from Montana, I get it. But it's all about that. It's a really special place, but a really special thing. I think Heather has really taken the time to dig in and figure out what it is that makes it so special, that keeps us all here.
Where were you?
It's a love. It's a love for the outdoors. It's a love for what we do out there. It's a love for the people that we surround ourselves with and doing all that. We're really, really lucky to have this and so make sure you protect it and take care of it. This is another deer and song last one I'm doing tonight. This is called Loving Life. And it's about being a ski bum. It's really fun. And sometimes you're digging on the bottom of the car looking for quarters and leaving the dimes and whatever you can find. Go get a burger at McDonald's and scrounging up to get a $4.95 all-you-can-eat lunch at the Alpha Grill. And you do what you can to make this life every day. And really you just have to embrace those little shit piles. On the other side of it is a shiny giant. So this is called Loving Life.
Yeah, and then I saw something and I went, they aren't even loading the gambler.
High stakes. So high stakes, they couldn't open it.
I played a gambler when I was in it. I got like 3 gambler. I've been playing on my
That's so funny. Half hour on tier 1.
I always put in like nighttime pack, just in case I get stuck. I always put in big pad. Because you have to work, you can't pee, and if you have any other peeing, it's gonna be like a disaster. Yeah.
We're live streaming right now, and we got 10 people. Just in front of the camera. I'm a big fan. See, this needs to be like over Whitefish
Thank you guys so much. Let them run shot second Whitefish came into the stage.
I started to do that. I made myself a.
Fired up. Thank you, Deidre. Thank you, Ryan. For the wireless, I can turn it off. So this is generally the point where we tell you grab a drink. We're going to quiet things down for the literary discussion and more kind of quiet music. But we have about 5 minutes here. We're going to get the stage reset, grab a drink, and we're going to be on with Heather Hansman in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Check.
I quit. I stopped. Is that alright?
Yeah. It's good to be roll
Oh, nice. Ooh, I could use some of this. Some B-roll. Audience B-roll. What did you say, 5 minutes?
I think so. This is my newest investment.
Yeah, follow focus.
Dude, they're great.
Oh, it's for the Zoom. Nice. I mean, I guess you can set it to your focus.
You can, yeah.
Nice.
Our online streaming people are just like, what are they doing?
Can I do it?
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's you. It's like a few seconds.
And yeah, there's like a 3-second delay.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
There you go.
Here you go. Fun stuff. Dude, that's so
It was so
great.
great to see you.
Maybe, like,
was like, can I just put you on retainer? And I was like, what does that mean? She's like, I don't know. You tell me. And I'm like, I don't know. I just be your film guy.
Yeah. Well, salary, like.
Yeah, like pay me monthly. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And then I basically, based on what I charged her for commercial, was that monthly. But I was like, I don't do the same thing for you every month. I'm still gonna hire Kier. I'm still gonna hire Morgan. I'm still gonna hire Andrew.
Yes.
And so, and David. So she's like, all right, I'm just going to do a monthly salary. You have to pay everyone out of that. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Rad.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah, for 6 months.
It's good.
She's so cool. She's so cool and easy. She really impressed me.
Yeah, me too.
And Mike is. I mean, I don't know Mike very well. I mean, I was out filming some of the Two Bears stuff.
Right.
And it was like, he's like, James was out there. He's like, Mike does night shifts and like, Christmas and all the holidays and
For Two Bear. Yeah.
And he'll hop in held up and fly.
Pretty remarkable. Jamie wants me to have him on Hellwise. I was like, if he wants to,
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have her on first. Yeah. I'm gonna do like a little micro documentary about urbanommy for Hello Micahs. I'm gonna do more like micro documentary stuff for
yeah, no, Whitefish stuff is great.
shooting out. It's a lot of work, but it's good. My boss is like super cool. He's like, I could be. Like, I have people that want to advertise. I just like need to get, like, I've got the contract. It's just so much work. And having a family and stuff. But that's the next step. I've got like phases ready to go.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
It's fun.
All right, we're gonna get this thing going, everyone. Grab a seat. This is typically when it used to be a bar, like downstairs. We'd have to get Ryan Friel to run around. Where's Ryan? Tell everyone to be quiet. It's kind of like you're in grade school in right? How do they do it? This mic is not on. Okay. There we go. So really, but this is real training, folks. We are. Ryan Friel, are you there? Ryan Friel. We are fired up. We are here for Heather Hansman and Powder Days. Thank you to Deidre Course and Ryan Whitland. We're going to start this event off a little differently. We have never started where I've asked you to be super, super quiet. I actually have asked you before. But, and it's going to be key for the folks in the VIP section. VIP people, hello. We're going to quiet the room. So this Whitefish review events are about building energy, and this is how we start to build energy. VIP section. This is when we quiet down. This is it. So, thank you for being here, everyone. I'm going to talk very quietly. I'm going to spare a big introduction, and I'm going to set the mood with the music right now. Deidre and Ryan are going to play a tune, a John Prine tune. The reason this came into kind of my psyche is Deidre came to our event when we had Susan Bridges here and Jeff Bridges here, and she busted out this tune late night on the magic guitar. And we'll talk more about the magic guitar that Rick Bass has brought into this world. Bonnie Raitt made this song real famous. It's called Angel from Montgomery. It's a really tender tune. Has a lot of feelings about longing. There's some talk about longing in this book that Heather wrote. And this is Angel from Montgomery.
And no woman named after my mother. Oh man, it's just another child grown old. Dreams were lightning, thunder was desire. This old house was burned down a long time ago. Make me an angel, flies from Montgomery. Pay me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing I can hold on to believe in this living law. It's just a hard way to go. When I was a young girl, I was a ski bum. I had me a cowboy. He wasn't much to look at, just a free rambling man. Well, that was a long time, darling, and no matter how I tried, those years seemed to blow by like a broken down dam. So make me an angel, flies from Montgomery. Pay me a poster load of an old rodeo. Yeah, just give me one thing I can hold on to believe in this living law. It's just a hard way to go. It's just a hard way. Well, it's just yeah. So hard there are flies in my kitchen. I can hear them, they're buzzing. I ain't done nothing since I woke up today. Yeah. I'll be half-headed person, go to work in the morning, come home in the evening, nothing to say. Make me an angel, flies from Montgomery. Yeah, pay me a poster load of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing I can hold on to believe in this living law. It's just a hard way to go. To believe in this living law, it's just a hard way to go. And you dropped right,
Wow. Thank you, Deidre. Thank you, Ryan. All right. That put us into a good place to believe in that 11. So, Mike, didn't I say? Oh, there are my glasses. I have a spare pair in my pocket just in case. Anyway, thanks everyone for being here. This is, Brian Frill just pointed out, such a lovely cross section of Whitefish, Montana, and even up to Fernie, BC and beyond. And can't tell you enough how grateful we are for the support of Whitefish Review, the support of Powder Days, and the support of what we're trying to do for art and literature here in Whitefish, Montana. My name is Brian Schott, and I am the founding editor of the Whitefish Review with Mike Powers and Ryan Friel. I really want to throw, again, big thanks out to Deidre and Ryan for being here. What incredible music. You're gonna hear a little bit more from those guys. Thank you to 101 Central, this space that we're gathering in here. We really love it. It's just comfortable. It's the stage, the sound. Thanks to 101 Central for all they've done. Urban Omni. If you haven't tried Urban Omni downstairs, the chef is incredible down there. They're doing incredible work. So thank you to Explore Whitefish. Explore Whitefish has co-sponsored this event with us. Flew Heather out here from Durango, Colorado. We were skiing up on the mountain today. Thank you to Whitefish Mountain Resort. The team up there is incredible. Matt Gibo, Nick Columbus, Chad Sokol. We had a powder day with Heather today up there, so it was pretty rad. Thank you to the Firebrand Hotel, the Hidden Moose Lodge, Glacier Bank, Bookworks. I got a story about books in a second. And Maggie Neal Dory is here. I was going to talk with Heather. I want to thank especially, my entire team. My wife Lindsay, as always, she's up with my son Miles at the front door. Couldn't do it without those guys. The support's incredible. Again, Monica Pastor, _art, and Keith Liggett and Dan Savage came down from Fernie today for this thing. And, it's incredible. Woo-hoo! Yeah, Canada. What else? All right, so I am going to introduce the star of the show. We're just going to cut this right to the chase. And I am going to introduce Heather Hansman in one moment. Her new book, Powder Days. She is a veteran ski journalist. I actually met Heather up in Revelstoke. Heather was up there for Powder Magazine, and I was screwing off doing some freelance writing. For a free ride competition up there, and we got to ski together and connect. And these circles, she's actually a Colby College graduate where my wife went, where Ryan and Mike went. These interconnecting lines, when you read Powder Days, we're in the interconnecting lines right now, for sure. But she takes you on this incredible journey, this hidden history of American skiing. It's tremendously well reported. I think you'll find the personal parts of this narrative are incredible. But the subculture of ski bums. My wife loves the beard I'm growing. I haven't grown a beard for a while. I thought, for Powder Days, maybe I'll get the beard going back. So, sorry, Lindsay. It's pretty short. I wouldn't call it a beard, right? Powers can grow a beard in about 5 minutes, and it takes me like 5 weeks. Rita came up to me. She was like, "Ooh, looks good." Yeah. And thank you to Rita Brown. I always forget to thank people on my team here. And anyway, so Heather has this question about, can you still be a ski bum? We moved here as ski bums. We're raising families. The cross-section, we always ask ourselves when we're up at Whitefish Mountain Resort, is the next round of, ski bums coming to town? And it's a big question. And it's also the big question of climate change in the sport of skiing we're going to talk about tonight. But I'm going to introduce you to Heather Hansman. 10? All right, we're in. So Heather, welcome to Whitefish, Montana. Thanks for being here.
Thanks everyone for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's fun. Heather has only been here about 24 hours at this point, but I picked her up at the airport at 1:30 yesterday. We were able to ski 3 runs after picking up Heather. Perfect, thank you. My visual consultant. And then today we had a great ski day as well, so it's been fun to be up there. Incredible book, something you should be really, really proud of. It's rich, it's deeply researched. Me personally, I mean, the kind of the literary parts and the personal parts really are touching to me, and I want you to talk first so the audience understands how did the book come to be.
Yeah, it's sort of a tricky question. I guess, how many people in the room are writers? We have some. There's like a crew in front here. And I think anybody who's a writer, anyone who's kind of like approached a creative project knows that you often start in one place and end up in a place that's totally different with the project, which is sometimes the fun part of it. And when I started thinking about this book, like Brian mentioned, I'm guessing a lot of people in this room are ski bums, have kind of pegged their life around being outside, being in a place that they want to be. And so I sort of had this question as I got older. That idea started really kind of wiggling into my brain. And I was like, why am I so obsessed with this? Why does something like skiing that on some surface level is pretty stupid? Like, why does something like skiing kind of dig so deeply in our brains? Why do we get so obsessed with it? So I got really hooked into this question of why would somebody want to be a ski bum? Why is there this whole industry and series of communities and this whole lifestyle pegged around this sport? And so that was sort of the first question that I started with. And then, like I said, you start to dig into these things. And the question really morphed into less, why would anyone want to be a ski bum? That was kind of the core of it. But it really started to evolve. And as I was doing the research for this book, which ended up going on basically a really big ski road trip to do a lot of the recording, which was really rough. I had a really bad time. But as I was dropping into towns like Whitefish, I spent a lot of time down in Bridger and Bozeman. I started to see my peers, the people I had kind of started skiing with, and different generations really struggling with these questions of whether you could still be a ski bum and whether it was sustainable and what skiing was going to look like in the face of climate change and how people who are working on mountain jobs could stand to live in towns that were getting more expensive and kind of what the the emotional temperature was in these towns. So it kind of evolved into this question of can you still be a ski bum? Is it something good? Why? The why and then the how really evolved out from that. And that's something that it's a question I'm still kind of wrestling with, and I think a lot of these places are still wrestling with too. So, I mean, you write a book and people often are like, so what did you figure out? And I think what I figured out in this is that there's a lot more questions. So I'm still in that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of questions, we want to conclude this evening by passing that mic around and getting some audience participation and asking Heather some questions and getting some discussion going. We're at sort of an interesting juncture in the life of Whitefish, Montana, I think, in terms of, we've come through this COVID bubble. Whitefish was always on a, kind of a slow trajectory of growth. COVID hit, things went nuts, as we all know. And now we're sort of coming out of that and in a little bit of a dip, probably. We'll see. But I think it's an interesting time for our community to have discussions about who we are as a town, what do we want to be like in the future, and I think talking about it is kind of the key.
Yeah, and I think ski towns where the highs, the emotional, the economic highs can be really, really high, and the lows can be really, really low too, are kind of an interesting microcosm for some questions that the whole country is facing that as a society we're really kind of grappling with. So.
And it's interesting because Heather really uses the micro of ski towns to look at the broader culture of America in terms of, wealth inequalities,
you know, all the things that play into our country and what we're, you know, talking about, but the micro stuff in ski towns really reflects on a bigger part of our country. So I'm going to have Heather actually read a little passage. Are you ready for that? You know, in these literary events, I always love to give the audience a taste of the writer's style. I think what I can do is if we can have you read, and you won't have to hold that mic, so if you can shift over to that one, I think you'll be in good shape. Get it? Sound on this mic?
I'll just keep talking. Oh, that sounds like it's going. You guys good in the back? Okay, I will be as loud as I can. I'm going to read for folks who haven't spent time with the book, and to kind of give you an intro of what I'm thinking about here. I'm just going to read you all a little bit from the very beginning of the book, which is called The Dream. We duck our heads into the wind, ski tips skittering as we curve along the ridge, slowing down to scout the gullies and pick our lines. Katie drops in first, and from above I watch her turn, every arc short but smooth. She sends down a wave of slough as she carves through the chute, more graceful than I'll ever be. And in the apron she stops below a knuckle of rock, out of the line of fire if I were to fall or the slope were to slide, and waves me down. I lean forward in my boots and tilt over the edge, giving into gravity. This rib of rocky chutes was out of bounds when we ski patrolled here at Arapahoe Basin almost a decade ago. Back then, the only way in the steep gullies was to wait for conditions to line up, then duck a rope and sneak around the elbow of the ridge, hoping no one saw you go, hoping that the sugary Colorado snowpack would be stable when you did. I followed older guys past the boundaries, nervous but glad to be invited. Hopped up on a mixture of adrenaline, secrets, and the thrill of breaking rules. Now the gullies are inbounds, kicked open by the pressure of resort expansion and skiers hungry for terrain. From the ridge, you can see down to Highway 6, where the real dirtbag skiers used to park their campers, sleeping close to the hill, cutting corners wherever they could. These days, traffic stacks up on the road, and you're not allowed to sleep in your vehicle anymore. It feels like all of Denver drives to the mountains every weekend, cramming the slopes and skiing off every bit of snow. It seems, sometimes, like there are no more secrets. And part of that is true. It has changed. It's more crowded, more expensive, and more exposed. But my frustration is also driven by the shifting baseline of nostalgia and the way the past resonates and echoes when I'm back in a place that used to be mine. Even if things had remained the same, we would be different. Katie has a kid now, and I live 7 states away. We no longer subsist on quesadillas and high life, and we're back here in Pasco. We're not locals anymore, even when I still try to hold on to those dirtbag secrets and claim them as mine. But we were ski bums once, or at least we were skiers chasing the idea of wildness, helixed around an obsession with untouched snow, and the kind of parties where someone always ended up naked shooting fireworks out of their butt. For a while, we were insiders, stratified into the mountain town ecosystem, shiny in our youth and ease, even when we were serving pizza second shift to supplement our skimpy on-mountain paychecks, even when we were stamping our feet in the bitter cold, scanning lift tickets while some sweaty second homeowner accused us of ruining his vacation. We were living the dream, prioritizing skiing over everything else. We moved to the mountains and let the other facets of our lives fall into place from there. It was an idea I'd been obsessed with since I was a kid, when I first felt the adrenal glory of downhill motion, lit from behind by the perfect sunset shots of ski movies and glossed up by magazines. I thought that being a skier, a real skier, meant committing to this constant sense of chase. But like any obsession, the reality was more complicated. Even calling yourself a bum signals a level of privilege. There's an imbalance that comes from chasing something fleeting and selfish because it can all fall apart in one bad fall. Plus, scanning lift tickets sucks. Ski towns and the built-up fantasy land of resorts can be havens for inequality and abuse. Skiers are drawn to excess, and there's plenty to go around. When I moved to Colorado in 2005, risk was everywhere, but in a way that felt exciting. I liked the brag of drinking too much, and and I was too naive to notice harder drugs. Climate change seemed vague and theoretical, and no one I knew had died in the mountains yet. The recession hadn't shaken my generation's idea of stability, and corporate entities were just starting to binge buy resorts. I didn't understand the direct connection between my rampant anxiety and my relentless permanence, and I thought living in my car was cool. I thought I could exist like that forever. But skiers know that a turn only looks elegant when it's in motion. It breaks down and loses its grace if we stop moving, and ski bumming is sort of the same. It exists in a liminal space, one that seems particularly fragile now, as resorts consolidate, climate change accelerates, and economic inequalities underscore existing disparities that concentrate in vacation towns. Personally, politically, and ecologically, skiing is changing. It's hard to live forever in the bubble, and it's particularly hard when it's squeezed by unreal expectations and shrinking spaces. Ski culture glorifies its iconoclasts, but that means that as skiers, we've been fed a narrow ideal that's nearly impossible to achieve, which feels like a story about much more than skiing.
Very nice. Thank you. So this is where I get to step aside for a couple minutes or longer. We have Maggie Neal Doherty here. Maggie has been a longtime local fellow ski bum in the community, raising kids, alongside us. Maggie, in our current issue, interviewed Heather. So there is a very insightful interview in the new Whitefish review, as well as our website. I'd love to point you to. But I'm going to invite Maggie up here, Maggie Neal Doherty up here tonight, and they're going to discuss a lot of subjects. But I wanted to, kind of give some power to the women here tonight a little bit. I think this will be the best mic for you. This is better, yeah? Okay. Take that.
Great, thanks, Brian. No, I don't have to read.
Everyone, Maggie Neal Doherty.
This is so exciting because Heather and I have kind of Zoom known each other and phone known each other for a couple of years, and tonight was the first time we got to meet in person, so it's really exciting, and I'm glad you're here, and welcome to our corner of Northwest Montana, and I really do believe you brought the snow, so thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, it was pretty dry and dire, so thank you. You're welcome. It has been really fun to talk with Heather, first for the Whitefish review, and then I've actually just keep trying to talk to you because I think you're really rad, and you're touching on a lot of subjects, so I'll just routinely email her and be like, hey, what do you think about this in skiing? P.S. Do you want to hang out? Oh wait, you live in Colorado. So this is our chance to be in person. I absolutely love the book because it felt like, for the first time in not the giant body of ski literature, someone was willing to show the absolute love letter that it is to skiing and what it means to our bodies, emotionally what it means to belong to a town, and that kind of giddiness that hopefully all of us still get to feel when we're out there, while also taking a really hard look at things that are sometimes very pervasive and hard to even talk about in ski town. So thank you for that. And I think where I'd love to start about women power, and this is the point, Brian, we were going to bring you back up and we were going to chuck you into the crowd to show. I didn't get that note. Yeah, sorry, you were late to dinner and we're like, we're going to show off our strength.
We got you. We got you.
Okay, Deidre, of course. Actually, Deidre could do it with like one finger. But ski bum is typically thought of as a male pursuit, or we typically think of most men as ski bums. And you have a great chapter, Pammy and Peter Pan, and let's talk about what it means for not men to want to kind of chase the ski bum dream, and what you thought of in your research or your experience, like how do women either fit in or complicate that myth of the ski bum? Can you guys hear me okay on this mic? Yeah. So maybe. Oh, we got it. Okay. Cool. I think when I started kind of digging into the book, one of the things I wanted to understand was where the idea of a ski bum came from. And so I started looking back at the history, and skiing in America only really goes back about 100 years as an industry, as a sport that was really kind of commercialized. And so I went back to the beginning of that history and started looking at the storytelling around skiing, kind of where we got this idea of being a ski bum. And there's this really rich cultural history from almost the beginning. I think people love adventure stories. I know I do. I mean, that's kind of why a big part of why I do what I do. And I started looking back at these stories, and we have magazines going back, almost 100 years, and we have a pretty robust film culture around skiing. I'm sure everyone here has watched a ski movie at some point. And I started kind of thinking about who was in those, and almost without fail, the idea of a ski bum was a white, physically able, probably financially making it work dude. Like almost without fail, the image was the same. And I think that really perpetuates this idea of who feels welcome in a community when you only see one specific image around, the thing that you want to be a part of. And I know for me I carry a lot of those privileges with me, but as a woman, especially a young woman breaking into it, I felt like I had to do a lot of proving to feel like I could be a real skier. Like I had to be as faster than the guys. I had to be stronger. I had to hike faster. So I think it creates both a really narrow idea of what we think a skier can be, and it creates sort of like an unhealthy competition when we only think about a specific image as a skier or ski bum. And I think there's been a lot of work, even since I worked on the book, there's been a lot of work to open the door and kind of like expand what that image can be. And I think for me especially, when I could kind of start to work through that, like, I don't have to be the fastest, strongest dude going off the cliff, it made skiing a lot more fun for me, because I could kind of like do it for myself instead of for what I thought the image should be. And I think that's kind of like interesting work that a lot of the ski world is still working on, and kind of does need to be working on right now. Like how do we kind of open it up? How do we make it more interesting? How do we take the competition away?
Right, because there's a lot of your book too that talks about gatekeeping, and so not only gender structures, but if you've got a pretty narrow window of who's allowed to access this sport, outside of all the other kind of gatekeeping, it is self-limiting. And I think you were talking though that, have you noticed a change like generation? I think you and I are peers, so probably, I moved here 20 years ago, which seems weird, because it doesn't seem like it should be that long, but have you noticed a change in younger women and how they are relating? Because it seemed like a lot of times the attitude you see in mountain towns among women was like, I'm the one that got in, and I can hang, and I can rip, and I'm not going to let anybody else in. What are you seeing now among women in mountain towns?
Yeah, I think that feeling that you mentioned, kind of like the scarcity feeling, where like I'm the only one who got in, so I have to protect my space as the only one. I think I felt for sure, and I think had been pretty pervasive, and I think that's true. I was talking about ski films a minute ago. Often if there's a woman in a ski film, there's only one, and oftentimes those female athletes really had to compete with each other for that space. So I think there's sort of a feeling behind that, and there is some cultural reinforcement there. But I think what I see, and as I'm getting older at a ski town, I do see that younger women you see packs of younger women skiing around. It seems like they have more of a peer group that can be supportive instead of competitive. And I think that is one of the things that makes me the most excited when I think about the future of skiing, is like who gets to claim their place there.
Yeah, I think skiing as an industry is looking at the ways that it's been very limiting, and for it to survive, not alone thrive outside of these other pressures, is the who can access skiing and how they can enjoy it has to change, whether it's gender, income inequality, different cultural experiences. So I think it's probably long overdue, but hopefully it's changing. Yeah, and I think that, you know, the income pressure is a really interesting thing. I think that so the book's been out for about 2 years now, and I've kind of been bopping around to ski towns talking about it, and in every town kind of has its own set of issues, and I'll be really curious to hear what people are thinking about here. But without fail, can I afford to live in the town that I love, where I work, has been the question that shows up everywhere. So I think that's something that as a world of skiers, everyone's kind of wrestling with, and we have to kind of figure out how we want that to look in the future.
Yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking sometimes when you look at it, and sometimes it feels like whiplash living here in the Flathead Valley that's really seen it. And then through your book, you take us to Aspen and the Bozeman area, and so it's a huge reckoning that communities. But one thing I did really love about your book too was kind of challenging that notion that ski bums don't participate in community culture. And I find in the Flathead Valley, I know more people that have been engaged in local politics, from planning boards to city council to library boards. Like, it's an area that really challenges you to become engaged. And I think you put it as like, we have to be the grown-ups now. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. I spent, like you mentioned, a chunk of time in Aspen because so many of the questions that are happening for skiers and ski towns are really inflamed in Aspen. It's kind of like way far out the line of like, who can live here, what are we doing, how are we addressing climate.
Would you say it's Aspen extreme?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Would you still do the powder eights with me though?
Yeah, the skiing is the easy part. But I talked to a guy there who's a kind of environmental advocate there, and he was saying that one of the problems with the idea of being a ski bum, he said it was inherently anti-citizenship, which is something I've been thinking about a lot. It's this idea that as a ski bum, you're kind of like trying to beat the system and operate under the radar, and you're like no friends on a powder day, and you're kind of out for like yourself and your experience. And I get that, I've felt that in my body for sure. But if you operate like that, then you can't be mad when the town changes around you. And so I think that kind of gave me this charge and gave me this idea that like, okay, if we live in these places, if we love them, if we want to protect them, we have to do the work. You can't just, like go skiing all day and then get cranky when things are changing. So that for me was like a real kick in the pants about like, okay, yeah, part of this cultural flip around what it means to be a skier has to be about engagement and has to be about digging in on the issues and protecting what we love and what we care about. So I think that, for me, that was like a real fire.
And an important one. And it will be cool to hear during the audience Q&A what folks are thinking. Another thing that I'd love to pick into that's personal beyond skiing is the work that you do in the book about excesses, extremes, and addiction. I myself am 2.5 years sober, so I'm like the sober ski bum, and I've been looking in my freelance writing at areas, especially in mountain towns, about substance use disorder, the prevalence of mental health, all those connections, and I think your book is refreshing in that it takes a hard look, because for so long my mantra was like not only keeping up on the hill, but keeping up at the bar. And some of those are your own internal pressures, but you show that there is a lot of data, unfortunately, out there that mountain towns have some of the highest rates of mental health issues, suicide rates in Montana, I think we're number 1, and a lack of resources. And your book kind of puts out plainly, like, this is also another issue that we need to talk about. So what were you finding on the ground?
Yeah. When I started kind of investigating the question of why anyone would want to be a ski bum and who wants to be it, like who are the people who are moving to a cold, snowy place in northwest Montana chasing this sort of ephemeral sport. And it turns out that there's some really interesting brain science behind that, and that there are people who are geared, who like actually in their heads need more stimulation. It's called sensation seeking. It's kind of one of the big 5 traits that people have, and some people are just geared for more sensation seeking. Like they need more buzz to function. And they actually call it
one of the ways they explain it is they call it antisocial behavior. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't like people. It basically means that you don't do well with social norms, and like you want to be a rebel, you want to be on your own program. And when I had that explained to me, I was like, that is everybody I know in ski town. It's like without fail, I was like, this is all really making sense. And that means that, you know, some of us who like, you know, aren't just gonna be noodling down groomers, like need to kind of be pushing it, often have to push it, or like often are kind of geared to push it in other facets of their life too. So that means maybe you're going harder at the bar, you're running farther, you're pushing your relationships. And there's a nature piece of that, and then there's also a nurture piece of that, where when you're in a community, when you're in a place where everybody else is like that, then it seems normal. And so then everybody's kind of pushing that limit, and it can create some really, it can be really wonderful. It can lead to, you know, like big athletic events. It can lead to groundbreaking stuff, but it can also lead to some really dark places, and it can be hard to get out of that cycle when you're in it. And Maggie just wrote a really wonderful piece for Ski Magazine about sobriety in ski towns and kind of changing that, which people should check out. And I mentioned some people who are in this room, and we can dig into that. But I think one of the things that I saw in a lot of places that was really interesting on that front, especially about the kind of challenging mental health issues that go around that, is that people are starting to talk about it, and that's why I think Meg's article is really valuable. But I think the conversations about not being okay in places where you're in a vacation town and everything is supposed to be awesome, you know, those conversations about like, what do you feel like when it's not awesome, are really starting to change. So I think that's something that was kind of universally top of people's minds in ski towns. Yeah, do you want to speak to your experience in that and kind of dig into that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, it's just been a curious journey to go through where, you know, I grew up the child of 2 ski bums. My dad worked road construction and bartended on the ski hill. So my locker room as a kid was like the back ski bar, but my goggle bag was the Crown Royal purple bag. Like I just always thought skiing and drinking went hand in hand. And I definitely lived up to that, and then it wasn't so great. But what I realized is that the strengths that go into being someone that's attracted to mountain activities also helped me get sober. And part of that Ski Magazine article, and one thing that maybe a lot of us writers love to do, is connect with other people. And I got the rumor that someone else that I've known for a very long time also was on a sober journey named Ryan Friel. And so I'm like, hey, would you like to talk about this for a magazine? And we both had centered upon how, yeah, we're probably driven to extremes and there's an addictive part, but the thing that calls us to the mountains and to skiing and to pushing your body so hard physically also gave me a lot of strength and sobriety. Like I still did, you know, not standard, I don't know. Everyone's recovery journey is different and unique to themselves, but I think sometimes when you look at ski bum culture and it's hard partying, you think like you can't participate in any of that once you get sober. But I've been on skis since I was 2 years old, thank God, like what an amazing gift. And that also has kept me clean and sober for 2.5 years. So I think that message too, like my goal with a lot of this has been not only talking about there are serious risks in mountain towns that are being unaddressed about mental health and addiction, but also there's a huge community. Like, I mean, God, Ryan, you probably already have like 60 days under your, that's probably, I'm shit at math, but close. Like, we still can ski and seek those amazing experiences. We just don't have to be at the beer stew getting thrown out. So yeah, that's where it is. But like your book started a good conversation, and what I appreciate about your writing is you put yourself there. Like you weren't this distant observer. You had many moments in your book where you're like, I'm at excess too. So I think the more we all kind of are just more mindful about it, and to steal Ryan, like if we're doing better, that's, you know, if we're taking care of our bodies, that's gotta have a better effect on the universe.
Yeah, and I thought a lot about, you know, why like this is, first person narrative. I was on this trip and I thought a lot about what skiing is for me and why, why am I obsessed with this ridiculous thing? And I think one of the coolest things about it is that skiing means something different to almost everybody, but I think kind of like the core of it is that it's one of the only things that I do just for pure joy. Like a lot of times if I'm riding my bike, it's for exercise. Like skiing is just fun. And I think that is such a valuable thing that we can kind of wash over so much when we're trying to be efficient, we're trying to go hard. But I think that kind of core of why is skiing important is something to really be thinking about and what it can do.
Yeah, and I think for any person that gets to experience, whether they're a little kid or coming to it later in life, and so this is the question I folded up at dinner. I was like, this is way too deep of a question, but I haven't been cut off yet by Brian. I was wondering, as we look at for sports and expressions of kind of that human physicality and connection, skiing, I think, is the perfect sport for women because, your height, your weight really doesn't matter. Stronger tends to be a little bit better, but my mother-in-law is like a peanut, and she still is. I just learned tonight, my mother-in-law, Jeannie Reichstad, is top 5 in vert. It is a sport, yeah, and she's 71, people, this is insane. But it's a sport, I think, that plays, it's not super body image, it plays on strength, it plays on intuition, and while ski bum culture can sound antisocial, there is an inherent connection there. Whether it's you have to usually talk to your lifties or get scanned, you're hopefully thinking all the people that make the mountains safe and wonderful. And usually on a chairlift, unless you're a total jerk, you're gonna say hi to somebody or at least tell them to turn down their stupid ass music that's playing so loud. But I just think that the things that are so great about skiing will hopefully never change, right? And that connection and highlighting the good things that it does for strength, for exploration, for those opportunities to kind of play with gravity. Because you're right, we don't get that experience anywhere else in life. And no other sport maybe than, well, there's no other sports, skiing's the best, so it's fine. Really deliver that, right?
I think that's true, and I think it's special in a lot of ways like that. I think that there are so few places in my life these days where I sit down next to a stranger and talk to them for 7 minutes. And I think there's something super, super valuable about that. And I think that idea of chasing gravity, skiing is, I've never jumped off, paraglided or jumped off a bridge or anything like that, but skiing for me is the closest thing I know to flying. And I think that you don't get that in golf. You don't get that in, people don't peg their lives around, I don't know, soccer. So I think there is something, and that's something I wrestled with in the book. It's easy to pick on the tough parts about it, but there is something really beautiful about it too that I think we need to pay attention to.
Thank you.
That was lovely. I want to make sure we save some time for audience questions. I think Brian Field gets, you really like golf too, right?
Activity.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That was lovely. I'm going to have your ladies, women, sit up. Whoa. Well, I called them the boys, right? So, we're all friends. Sorry. That was a really cool discussion. Thank you. It was enlightening. I'm going to invite Rick Bass up to the stage and Deidre Corson. I'm not sure if Ryan's going to play that tune, but I'm going to have you women sit on the side for a few minutes. Thank you for that. This is getting awkward. A round of applause for that discussion. That was really cool. Thank you.
we didn't talk about climate, but we're about to. I want to introduce our good friend Rick Bass, author, activist. We're really lucky to have Rick in the room and being a part of this. He doesn't call it doomed anymore. He called it doomed years back. He thinks it's going to keep going. So thanks, Rick. he always has called it beautiful. I'll give him that. So that's awesome. I want Rick to talk about the Montana Project guitar so you understand the magic that Deidre is going to play from this thing. Rick, I don't think I'm going to go into the details. I'm going to let you do it. But everyone, author and activist Rick Bass.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Heather and Maggie. Can you all hear on this thing? I can spend the whole evening thanking people. Brian, I'm just so impressed with your post-concussive state. It's like, I've loved you before, but you're really awesome. Like, welcome to the club. I think, like, we're talking about Whitefish and culture and what's going to become of us having survived Yellowstone, which we have done. And I think Heather has given us some leadership on this issue. Like Austin said, oh, we'll just keep Austin weird. And then Missoula tried to steal that with their bumper stickers. But I think Whitefish, fireworks shooting out of our butts. Yeah, I want to see that bumper sticker everywhere. Deidre, like this piece of wood that you were holding, 315 years a tree and 1 year a guitar, so struck that, like I've been driving, she belongs to all of us. She belongs to the state of Montana. It's this piece of ancient spruce from the Yak Valley, which we've been trying to defend, and the old ways are not working, of combat, and I mean, they kind of work in court, but it's not going to change the arc of history. And that's what I love about Whitefish Review and a few other, local groups up in this part of the country. We're leading in climate leadership, we're leading in arts. I think Whitefish Review is the Paris Review of our generation, and you guys supporting this deep taproot of, I suppose, art, for lack of a better word. You empower them, you empower us with just showing up and supporting it, yeah. It's a really exciting point of history. But what I was struck, we went in to defend this forest, and you go into this old forest, we wouldn't have found it if the Forest Service hadn't said we're going to clear cut it. So we went to ground truth their stuff, and we went in and, trees half the size of this stage, and you'd see hemlock, a shade tolerant species growing next to an enormous larch, a shade intolerant species. And these two trees that we were taught in forestry school cannot abide each other. They're not only standing next to each other, they're prospering like trees don't prosper anymore. Something's going on there. And so we proposed a climate refuge, and it's going to be this little spark of green up in the Yak that will spread all along the northern latitudes in this green halo around the globe, where we protect all of the old and mature forests at the northern latitudes. They store so much carbon, and they're just different. The way, ski communities in North Country is different. And thank you for again, Heather, your eloquent words on what happens to the human brain at altitude and impact and under self-harm. The way, I like you just as much post-concussion. And Brian, I'm intrigued by your this next self. We're all changing, and but these forests, these 1,000-year-old forests, are not changing, and it's just good to be in their presence.
Hello, there I am. That's the concussion.
Rick, you're a sweetheart. I am going to invite Deidre up here to play an original tune that she wrote for the guitar. She can sing to us, Rick. You're You're playing the solo? Yep. So Deidre, it was really cool. Deidre sent me a text after the last event when she was introduced to the guitar. She was like, hey, I wrote this tune. And she's going to play Curtain of Green for us right now.
Thank you. I gotta deal without a microphone here for a second. I was so inspired at the last gig. Rick was talking about this immense, amount of forest that really gives us an enormous percentage of our oxygen. I see right here. Nope, it's right there. Where I flipped it over. I know, it's terrible, right? I don't know why. So, we got each other. But I did go home from that event, and something just jumped out of my system. Like, I feel like an environmentalist, but I'm not. I feel like I'm just not doing enough every day, and it makes me crazy when my husband brings home a plastic bag. It tears my heart apart when I have to take a plastic bag from the grocery store because I forgot my bags and I have too many groceries. And there's these pieces that I want to keep working at, and because the trees are screaming at me. I can hear them, and it, just like after last event, it dug in so deeply that they're screaming, they're crying, they're hoping that we would all just do something to make sure that our grandkids, our great-grandchildren have a place that we have, because at this point they're not. It's going to be different. So here's to holding that curtain green, right? Let me be your voice. I can hold you through the darkness. I can't take away your pain, but I can sing your song. Sing your song. I can sing your song. Too much need and greed. Swallow all your fortune. Take away everything we need to live and breathe. If I could give anything, I would give my last breath to hear you say, hold a curtain of green, holding the sea for America. And do they wake up and see it's all for a dream for our lives? Black rain will bring us down. Can't you hear me scream? Tell me you work it out with me. More of us fall like me. I have died to be seen. I have fallen so you can hear me sing. Hear me sing. Oh, my curtain of green, holding a sea for America.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. All right, I'm going to bring Heather back up, and I'm going to have Heather. We're going to have Heather read one more thing, and then we're going to get out to the audience. Thank you, Rick. Everyone, a big applause for Deidre and Rick. Thank you so much. Really, really special instrument that, I think we'll continue to sing the songs of the forest. We always have so much packed into these, but did you have a piece on climate picked out that you could read? So I think the issue of climate can come out in the Q&A, but I'd like Heather to share with us a piece that she had picked out that speaks to climate change.
Thank you for that. That was really, really beautiful. And I was really struck when you were talking about this idea of, that conversation speaking to you and sparking something in you. And I'm always kind of curious and thinking about, especially kind of about recreation, about what makes people care and what drives us to action and what are the things that can really, drive us to change. And I think, the thing that really kind of resonates for me is that we need to there's so much to care about right now. There's so much to be worried about. There's so many bad things coming in through our eyeballs on the internet that it can feel for me, it can feel really easy to feel overwhelmed. And I think the thing that really grabs me is having context and understanding a place and understanding why it's important. And you hear Rick talking about being in that forest and really seeing firsthand what was worth protecting. And I think for me, maybe it's like a little hokey and Pollyanna, but I think skiing is something that brought me to the mountains. It made me care, and that's a vector to be thinking about the future of snow and the future of climate change. That's a way that I think about kind of coming into these big picture, overwhelming questions about what we're going to have to deal with. So I figured I'd just read you guys a little tiny piece about snow, and that maybe is relatable after the past couple weeks here. Snow is alchemy, the exact right mix of cold, water, and air. You can feel the difference of man-made, the stiffness and the catch, and the unbroken crystals of newly fallen fresh. Snow is sound, too. The creaky stick of cold storms, the ball-bearing swish of slush corn, and the crackle of rime ice. The thing about 1,000 words for snow is right. If we lose the ebb and flow of winter, which we soon could, we also lose storm chasing and the barometric adrenaline of waiting for a storm. There's a risk in pinning your heart to weather, and as skiers, we hang everything on snowfall. You know you're in trouble when you're constantly watching storm tracks and snow gauges, trying to predict the place where it's going to be the deepest, letting the real-life logistics of where you're going to live, for instance, fade into the background when you focus on La Nina storm tracks and the Farmer's Almanac predictions. The greatest existential threat to skiing is the winnowing of winter. The viability of these towns and of the sport is dependent on snowpack, which is being decimated by global warming. Depending on the emission scenario you choose, snowfall is predicted to shrink by up to a third by the end of the century. That thin margin of weather is going to have a huge bearing on the future of skiing, and on whether or not people can keep counting on the seasons to eke out a way of life. Not just here in the dry Southwest. I was in New Mexico in this section. But in British Columbia, where freezing levels keep creeping higher, and in New England, where almost every ski hill is now dependent on man-made snow. That problematic future is easy to forget in deep winters, but it's abundantly clear in shallow ones. Skiing is one of the most carbon-intensive outdoor sports, and as it snows less or rains more, it takes more energy and water to create snow. The worst winter I lived in the mountains, so far, yes. I ski patrolled the Arabo Basin, and in the early season, we sidestepped the steeps of Palavicini Face, packing down the snow with our skis so it would stick to the hills. We were trying vainly to hold on to some kind of base, to keep the mountains open. Mainly, we were trying to hold on to our sanity and protect everyone else's. When it doesn't snow, the land doesn't look great. A low-slung depression takes hold of the community. Everyone gets antsy. A couple of dry weeks in a ski town makes you wonder about the value of waiting for winter. Desperation sets in. And that particular season turned into a series of pray for snow parties and bird ski bonfire sacrifices to the snow gods. I did a lot of brewer skiing dressed like a hot dog to make things feel even a little bit interesting. But every new season hinges on the hope for deep powder days. There's a whole ski film industry that's built on tape cutting the highlights of last season's steep days and delivering them to you on the threshold of winter. Even my own memories seem to be organized by snowstorms. Did we used to talk about climate this much? Was it always this dry in December? Were we always this paranoid? Can we actually keep doing this if it gets worse?
Nope, there we go. Well, yeah, the stoke is certainly on right now with the snow falling. It's the mood change is palpable when the snow falls, and the dour mood is kind of grim when it doesn't fall. We were at a restaurant that we took Heather out to dinner, and the chef came out and he was like, "Yeah, it snowed, and everyone wanted to like come out to eat dinner and have fun, and like people were stoked." It was interesting, but the mood changes. I want to throw some questions out to the audience. I'm going to walk out with a mic if anyone has a question, and if not, you can grab Heather, have a chat, but we do have a question from our friend Steve Thompson.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Heather, for addressing the climate crisis. It's dramatic. I've lived in Whitefish for 33 years, and I'm not a downhill skier, which is like, what? What's crazy about that? I got a border collie, enough said. We Nordic ski every day we can. When I moved here, opening day was Thanksgiving. You always start at Thanksgiving. Good luck with that. When's the last time you could start skiing downhill? Whitefish Mountain Resort, Big Mountain, whatever. Thanksgiving. We are living at a precipitous point, at this point in the trajectory of history, during the time I've lived in Montana, 33 years, we've seen dramatic change. It's going to get worse. So my question is, we are living in a time, this year, 2024, we are living under the greatest opportunity to address the climate crisis of any time in the history of this country. The Inflation Reduction Act has provided so much money. I'm worried about the ability of the federal bureaucracy to actually manage this money. And at the end of this year, we're looking at the prospect of a son of a bitch who believes, and his final statement on climate change is that it's a hoax perpetuated by the Chinese government. What are we to do? What are we to do with the opportunities that are before us? Not theoretically, I'm not talking theoretically. We have an opportunity right now with an enormous amount of funding that I worry about the federal bureaucracy's ability to actually manage that and get it out to enact this clean energy transition needs to happen.
Yeah, that is a humongous question. And I think you touched on some really important points about the time that we're in now, and that we have this opportunity that is slipping through our fingers. And I think, there's people who are way smarter than me thinking about this on all sorts of levels, but I think what we have to do is everything. I think we have to hit on every level. If that's local politics, that's federal politics, that's personal action. There's no time to fart around. It has to be, we can't squander federal funds and just time. So I think we have to be, I can get really overwhelmed about it and feel like I'm not, Deirdre mentioned this, feel like I'm not doing enough. But I think it's we all have to be doing something. So I think if there was one answer to this, we would have figured it out already, and there's not, but I think it's hitting at every level wherever we can. And this, in the book, we talk about economics, we talk about mental health, the climate is the base of that pyramid. It all rests on that. So I think you're right to be, I'm guessing everyone in this room is worried on some level, but I think it's we have to be hitting everywhere with everything.
Thank you.
Anybody have like easy questions?
That was a stumper. Yeah, that was a, how was she going to answer that? I got one right here first. Tim.
Thank you. Some of you out there know me, and some of you don't, but I'll introduce myself to the ones that don't. My name is Tim Hinderman, and I have the good fortune of running a ski museum here in town, which some of you may or may not have heard of. The Ski Heritage Center, and it's sitting right down there by the skating rink and Alpines Market, and if you haven't been in, I would encourage you to do so. It feels really weird to be the old guy in the room, but the only thing I can say about that is it'll happen to everyone someday. So, a couple other things to say. I grew up with skiing. I grew up here. I was not born here, but yet I'm a third generation Whitefish person, so figure that out. First of all, thanks to the hosts for this evening for doing this, because it's really neat to have the focus on history as a museum guy. The project we're working on right now at the Ski Museum is an oral histories project of skiing in the area. And we've currently done 11 interviews that go all the way back to the widow of the founder of the ski resort. Unfortunately, we didn't start soon enough to get Mully, but we pretty much have a record of who Mully was and what he did. What we're doing with this, and what I'm really interested in, and what I'd like to hear your perspective on, and I'm going to confess that I haven't read your book, and you may have answered this in the book, and I will read it. What we're trying to do is connect the original skiers, which was the Hell Roaring Ski Club, if you're not familiar with them. They were founded in 1935. They built the 2 ski cabins on Big Mountain, which were the lodging facility, and the lift, the uphill transportation was under your feet, as many people have experienced going up underneath Chair 1 or whatever your approved route is currently. What we're trying to do is connect the culture, the spirit, the soul of what inspired those people, and what commonality is there between the people that did that. And by the way, it's interesting because I looked just 2 days ago at the original roster of the Hell Roaring Ski Club of 39 people, and roughly 30% of them were ladies. So it should have been 50-50, but it is interesting to see that going back that far. So there's still a fighting chance. But what I'd be interested in is connecting what skiing has brought to the participants, to their families, to their communities in ski towns, that whether it be substance abuse or whether it be a number of things on the positive side, that is a common bond that runs through skiing. And I feel, having grown up with it, like there is one. I feel like it's very beneficial to the individuals, the families, and the communities. I think there are some things there that skiers learn that other people don't learn, that other people don't appreciate. And the goal, and curse me for having the end of the research as a vision to bias whatever we discover, but the goal is to figure out what is that common ground. And so I'd be interested to hear what you think about that and where you've been with that. Thank you.
That's another big question. And I think, it's hard to speak universally on that, but I think for me, when I sort of think about what skiing has brought to me, what do I get out of it? And I think one of the biggest things is community and it's people. And is, like some of my favorite people in my life are the people that I've met on chairlifts or that I spend time outside, spent long days outside in the mountains with. And I think that's something that can hit on almost on any level within the sport. But I think it's those people, it's that connection, it's probably the bond that brings a lot of people in this room together. But I think, like moving your body outside is one really big important thing. That's a big force in my life. But I think, connection and community is the thing at the heart of it for me.
Nice.
Julie Mullins had a question here.
I did. Hi, everybody. I'm Julie. I'm with Explore Whitefish, and I'm very proud to help sponsor this event tonight. Heather, you've been awesome. Brian, so I'm going to make this a little fun. So I'm sitting here with my sons, and they're both in college, and they're visiting. And sitting here and talking about snow and talking about skiing, it brought me back to a memory where my youngest son, Alex, at 5 years old, took him skiing for the first time, and he said, "Oh my God, Mom, this is better than a roller coaster." How does Explore Whitefish, how does the team hold on to that spirit, that fun, that love, everything that revolves around skiing and snow? How do we hold on to that message with all this other heavy gravity that we're talking about tonight? We are here because this is freaking fun. And we've got to remember at the end of the day, it's about the roller coaster ride that we get to do on our skis as put together by my son at 5 years old. But how do we continue to inspire and carry that message externally to everybody?
I mean, I feel like you kind of answered your own question.
Well, I'd like to hear more from the expert.
Yeah. But I think it is. It's like, it doesn't necessarily have to be more complicated than that. But I think it is like in all the, shenanigans of traffic and roads closing and lifts closing and getting all your gear and all that. Like, the core of it is that it's fun. And like 5-year-olds get that. Like, we don't have to make it more complicated than that. But yeah, maybe turn to Alex.
Hi, Heather. My name's Patty Carrington. I loved your book. I loved all the issues you touched on. But there was one that I didn't quite understand. And you write, when you show up to ski, you're facing everyday systemic racism. Sorry if I changed the subject here. As well as the factors specific to these towns. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think, we talked earlier about the kind of like image of a ski bum, and that's often, a white man. And that shows up in skier participation numbers. That shows that, I'm gonna get the numbers wrong off the top of my head, but something like 78% of skiers are white, and they're often well off too. And so I think that, and I'm a white person, I show up in this body when I go skiing, but from talking to people who are black skiers, are the people who kind of show up at the ski resort and nobody really looks like them. They're facing that sort of like reality in their body and the kind of implied social pressure that is something we don't feel, or like I don't feel, where people are maybe looking at you different. You're kind of second guessing what what people are thinking about you. One of my big sources for that section was Kwame Alexander, who's a sociology professor, and he grew up in Massachusetts, like some of us did. Grew up skiing. He's a black man, and he said that every time I think he teaches at University of South Carolina now, and he goes skiing in the Southeast, and every time he goes skiing, he gets on the chairlift and he gets questions. And so there's this kind of like level of having to account for yourself that I don't deal with when I go skiing. So I think that is, you show up and you're not that typical ski bum, and you're thinking about it internally, and you're also getting these external forces. And I think that's the work of changing that is on me. It's on it's on people who do fit that mold to kind of make it different. So I'm not sure if that totally answers your question. But, that's like for a long time. Yeah.
We'll take one more here.
I won. I'm very important.
white chain 4K skis and jeans?
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I read your book and I loved it, and I wanted to ask you a question sort of about the intersection really between climate change, environmental damage, and the economies of ski town. And I'm wondering, we've had massive changes coming here, and a lot of people talk about Aspen, people that have come here from Aspen, and the changes, and you spent a lot of time there, and talked with people that were kind of at that intersection trying to make changes. But with the massive explosion of huge mansions, second homes, third homes, fourth homes, fifth homes of people, they're here for a week maybe, and those homes sit there heating on. We see the steam rising up them as we ski by them. And I know I've been to Aspen only once in the summer, but walking around you see these massive homes. And then there's the problem where there's no housing for the people that actually live and work. And then of course the environmental destruction of those homes. Do you see anything going on in Aspen or in any of these areas that are trying to address that with any legislation? Is there anything that you see hopeful about, changing that trajectory, coming back off of those kind of crazy ledges that we're going on to right now?
Yeah, that's a really hard question because you can't. Money is power in a lot, in America and a lot of places, and you can't unpower those. I'm not saying the right. You can't unpower that. And I think the kind of like most effective levers that I've seen for that Aspen is trying and struggling with a lot is social pressure and taxation. And they basically, Aspen has a property tax there and like a construction tax, and that funding goes into affordable housing. So they have a direct mechanism from building your bazillion square foot mansion into community involvement. But that's been a really hard, it's not easy, it's not straightforward. They're having trouble citing that affordable housing, property. These issues are all overlaying and overlapping, and I don't have great answers for that, but I think it's a really valid point that we're seeing in a lot, I'm sure is happening here. And there are some kind of like small levers, but it's a hard to, as we talked about earlier in kind of political stuff, it's really hard to get people to change their minds and to kind of, get them to change their framework when they're used to things. So I think it's, a lot of it is sort of community engagement, community involvement, but yeah, it's like tiny fractions of trying to build good things too. And that's sort of like a milquetoast answer, but I don't have a good one for you.
I have a big lever.
Tell us.
Ryan Bussey!
Greg does ski in jeans.
And it is an election year for everyone.
We are going to wrap this up. I do have a quick story to tell you. The UPS truck, you probably heard when you walked in, but the UPS truck that was delivering powder days got stuck in a powder storm, which is terrible, but it happened. Extreme weather stuck the trucks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are having Heather sign inserts that we will mail to you. We're offering you a free issue of the Vortex issue because the powder days is stuck in the Vortex. Or the new issue that the Maggie, Neil Doherty interview and Heather Hansman interview is in. So it's a great value. Say hi to Heather. Last call is going to be in about 20 minutes. I think we'll have a little more music. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. This is real community. This is why we live here. It doesn't happen without you. Thanks to Heather for making the effort to come out here. Thanks to Maggie, my team, and everyone. And just, I love you all. So good night.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for being here.
It's interesting. I didn't know that Aspen's taxing second. It's pretty obvious. What about
Sounds good.
It's a whole scene.
This looks like it's pretty funny where we come from when our first one of these was about the topic of
Crush.
Warcraft.
Okay.
Whoa. Lock, and then it was the wine bar, and then it was Crush.
Yeah.
So our buddy Greg Berger, a couple other guys, got this place locked. And we got a keg of beer. I don't even know if we had a reading. I think we just had a book. And it had all us people buddies show up and be like, hey, we're doing this thing, give away a free keg of beer. Everybody showed up. A reading or two, but I can't remember like and it was only 20-somethings, because that's all we knew, and it's the first thing we ever did. So like for us, this is crazy fucking bored. Oh, it's like adulting. But this is nice because there were a lot of 20-somethings, actual like open speakers and stuff. And the whole crowd section was so good. Great job, Brian. That's it.
Great job. It's pretty amazing.
There's like literally was like going to restaurants and bars and be like, hey, you got a seat for a cast around here? They were like, I heard of them. I don't know. Here's your right behind you. Right behind you. Right now.
Okay.
It's like 500 years. Luckily, the real estate office is always like, oh, my girlfriend that doesn't have a place around here. I'm going to put this car this fast. I'm going to place out here that says you like to. I lost his number though. And the real estate guy was just like, oh, I got his number. What? She was like, yeah. And it was walking up the block. I went out to a payphone, fucking dialed the number. I called from a payphone and said, landline in the back. I was like, last week, don't know me. We still this little thing, something, this is really what we're talking I was telling Morgan the story of meeting Rick Bass, and I have to write it quickly down. But all the part that brought her to the music was that it was like it was like going on a hunt for really smart people. That's all I'm writing down. I'm listening and I'm saying bye, but I just have to, I'm coming. This is the thing I don't like about the technology, is I'm actually writing about, I'm writing about in my next story. That was the tagline, Finding Rick Bass.
Finding Rick Bass. See you tomorrow.
Every day. Missed you last night, yesterday at Turner.
No, I didn't even hear about it. B, I probably would have thought about it. Have to step on
I mean, the parts that you can hopefully appreciate is that there were people that had never experienced it. They were like, wow, this is magic.
And it was a good day.
Well, I would say nothing was that good. That was the greatest of all time. But it was like, but it was right. That's the thing. That's what's cool. People are like, wow, that was the greatest day ever. Like, you got to do anything a lot and have it not be that way a lot. Sometimes, yeah. It's 2 feet, Uber, 2 foot lower, Uber.
Good. I got out yesterday for like 2 hours, and that's totally fair. It was sights.
It's cool to still live in a place where you can do that.
Yeah, we just changed it.
Figured it out, but also, you know what I mean? So it's all trade-offs. That these dogs aren't going to look after us.
I wish they would. They weren't great.
They do. I mean, I don't say it much, but they do kind of owe us.
Fuck yeah, they owe us. Although it's like, oh, I'm so tired, but I'll still take you for a run.
Whereas
and, oh, you need that really expensive knee surgery? Okay. Jen's like, come on. All right.
Brandon, we met on the trail last year at Point, and the other mule in the valley.
Oh yeah, good to see you, bud.
Yeah, good to see you.
Funny, there's now 4 of us in the room right now.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
And she's from Massachusetts, where I grew up.
Me too.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So, I thought that was funny.
And this guy, Mike, the other guy, he's also from Colby and Mass. Okay. He's a Duxbury guy. We graduated together, that's how he came out a year before me. He told me how great it was. Yeah. I was like, fuck it, I quit my job here. What have you been doing? How's things?
It's good. I was back east for the holidays, so I missed the gratis smoke mostly.
It's okay too.
Been having a good time the last 2 weeks. Been good.
Awesome. It's still a pretty magical place, man.
Oh, yeah.
I have to remind some of my older buddies, my age buddies, dude, think that headed somewhere else, you're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
It's still the best.
I was just in Jackson Hole for National Park this weekend.